What if life's most profound upgrades happen not when we hustle harder, but when we allow ourselves to stop? Rest isn't retreat, it is alchemy. And today we're going in.
Welcome to our Galactic Alchemy podcast.
Whether we are exploring intuition, healing, or higher guidance, you are invited to tune in, not just with your ears, but with your heart and your energy.
I'm Anita, and I work with soul-aligned leaders, visionaries, and healers to restore energetic coherence, awaken truth, and reconnect to the intelligence of the heart.
I'm Azriena, and with my soul alchemy modality, I guide people in multidimensional soul integration, clearing timelines, transmuting distortions, and reclaiming their own unique soul gifts.
This podcast is a space for deep connection, for attuned conversations that clear distortion, awaken soul gifts, and return us to the frequency of who we really are.
Welcome back to Galactic Alchemy, dear friends. Whether you're joining us for the very first time or you've been listening in with us for a while, we greet you exactly where you are. Heart open, breath softening. You are perfectly welcome here. And if you've arrived here today feeling a little worn out or on the edge, you're exactly in the right place. Because one thing a lot of us are feeling right now is this. The world we live in treats us like machines. We're expected to run at full speed every single day, pushing through exhaustion, staying consistent, and being productive no matter what. This system doesn't factor in our energy fluctuations, emotional states, or the personal challenges we're dealing with. It just demands we show up the same way every day, no matter what is going on inside or outside. This expectation feels especially out of touch. And for those of us who have a monthly hormone cycle, our energy, mood, and capacity naturally go up and down throughout the month. Yet, we're rarely given real space to honor that natural rhythm. And that's only part of it. When we add in the real impact of past trauma, health issues, neurodivergence, disability, systemic pressures, or money worries, the demand to be always on gets incredibly wearing. How many of us can honestly say we dare to give ourselves full permission to rest? And I mean really rest. Proper, guilt-free rest. And for so many of us, the spiritual path began as a refuge from all of the mess, a place to breathe, to experience more peace. But somewhere along that journey, even that sacred space started to carry its own kind of pressure. Because even the world of awakening can quietly ask just as much of us. Show up, keep clearing, keep growing, stay conscious, do the work, maintain the high vibes. And then we arrive at our spiritual practice already depleted, already running on empty, and we wonder why it feels so heavy. The constant pressure of deep inner work, shadow work, activations, and trying to keep up with everything we are collectively moving through, it all adds up. No wonder we end up feeling drained, scattered, and disconnected. We've had to ignore our precious inner rhythms for far too long. We want to name this reality gently, together. There's nothing wrong with us. We're not failing. We're not losers. We've just been trying to survive and flourish inside a system that doesn't recognize the natural cycles that make us magically human. The wisdom of our bodies, the signals of our emotions, and the rhythms of Mother Earth and the cosmos. And what we want to offer today is this. What if rest is actually sacred technology? Not a sign of falling behind or being lazy, but a clear embodied signal from our body and soul saying exactly what it needs. This changes the whole story. Rest isn't slowing our growth. Rest is what makes growth possible. It's what lets everything we've been working through to finally integrate, to settle in and take root. So Personally, I've observed that the conversation around spiritual awakening and ascension has shifted into a really positive direction. After a heavy period of deep clearing and processing, so many of us are now talking about real rebirth, true embodiment, and self-acceptance in practical, sustainable ways. There's a clear shift towards wholeness over hustle, toward nervous system safety, actual rest, and the understanding that real expansion comes from deep self-love, not from pushing harder. So this is the medicine we're sharing today. Rest as sacred technology, the quiet intelligence that brings us back into alignment with our own deepest knowing for everything that we've been integrating to land, settle, and truly become us. Before we carry on, let's collectively take a little quiet moment. Anita, shall we now guide everyone into that beautiful, energetic drop-in together?
Yes, let's take a moment together. Wherever you're listening from right now, just allow your body to soften a little. Take a slow breath in and gently exhale. Take another deep breath in. And as you exhale, imagine the weight of the day dropping away from your shoulders. Let your jaw unclench, let your shoulders soften, and bring your awareness into your heart space. If it feels comfortable, place one hand over your heart and simply notice the rhythm of your breath moving in and out. Nothing to achieve here, nothing to fix, nothing to improve, just being present. Allow your nervous system to receive the message that in this moment you are safe to slow down, safe to soften, safe to rest. Take one more beautiful breath in and gently bring your awareness back to the conversation with us.
That was so beautiful. It really landed so gently. I feel like you've just taken us on a journey, Anita. So let's name something that maybe doesn't get talked about enough in spiritual spaces. And we're going to say it with love, because this comes from lived experience, not judgment. There is a thing that happens on the awakening path, and maybe some of us have fallen into it at some point or another, where the spiritual journey quietly becomes another obsession, another to-do list, another place where we measure our worth by how much we're doing, how fast we're growing, how high we're vibrating. Shadow work Monday, breath work Tuesday, solar chakra activation on Wednesday, hot yoga Thursday, and by Friday we're lying on the floor, depleted, wondering why we feel worse than when we started.
Okay, I'm overwhelmed and exhausted just listening to that list.
And so that's what we're calling the spiritual hustle trap. And it's real, it's widespread, and honestly, it makes complete sense that so many of us have landed here. Because we live in a culture that glorifies output, and that culture doesn't stop at the edge of our spiritual practice. It follows us right in. Anita, is this something you've seen a lot in the people you work with? And what does this actually look like up close?
Yes, I see this constantly in the people I work with. And what's interesting is that it usually begins from a very sincere place. Someone has an awakening moment, or they realize there's more to life than the surface layer they've been living in. And suddenly they want to explore everything. Meditation, energy work, astrology, healing modalities, and shadow work. It's like opening every door in the house at once. But instead of feeling lighter, they begin to feel overwhelmed. Because the nervous system was never designed to process transformation at that speed. I often say to clients that spiritual growth works a little like physical training. If you go to the gym every day and never allow your muscles to recover, you don't become stronger, You become depleted.
The part about constant output is really triggering me because it takes me right back to a part in my career history that I just want to shove at the back of a cupboard and never look at again. So when I was leading a team of creatives, especially on the creative production end, and we were supporting strategies and big marketing campaigns, the umbrella term that was given to these campaigns was always on. Like, it's a term. And I remember back then, like, even the phrase itself just felt so unnatural to me. And I question, why is there a need to be always on? What are we trying to achieve here?
And the same thing happens on the awakening path. If we constantly push ourselves to clear, activate, process, and upgrade without pause, the system eventually says enough. That's when people begin to feel exhausted, scattered, emotionally raw, disconnected from their intuition, and they think something has gone wrong with their practice. But often the real issue is simply lack of integration time. Transformation needs space to land. Without that space, the nervous system cannot stabilize the change.
So obviously, in a corporate, fintech, media structure, it's all tied into KPIs. It's what the current system sets out for, when you are in that industry. However, I knew that it didn't feel natural because I personally believe in ebb and flow. So what I did was even amidst all the resource limitations and all the stress that comes with that kind of work, I made sure that I manage my team in a way that lets them know that I appreciate them as human beings with their own issues and their own cycles. And where I can, I always create an ebb and flow to the projects they take on, to the rhythms of their output. And where that initiative bore fruit is there was a year where my team, in the corporate world, they like to do all this kind of engagement analysis every year to see how happy or unhappy the staff are. And there was that one year when I implemented this very strategy. My team scored even higher than the highest in the regional market. So to me, that was proof enough. That is how we should work. And obviously it crosses over to our spiritual practice as well. I mean, it might look like consuming spiritual content constantly, podcasts, reading, courses, transmissions, but never quite feeling like we've done enough. Like there's always one more thing that will finally make it click. It might look like comparing our journey to someone else's on social media and quietly wondering why they seem so lit up and we just feel tired. It might also look like pushing through a meditation even when our body is screaming for sleep, or feeling guilty for taking a week off from our practice, or secretly believing that if we just did more inner work, cleared more, healed more, everything would finally fall into place. We need to take a breather. It is okay to sometimes just feel, I'm not feeling it today. I don't want to do anything this week. I don't want to meditate this week. I don't want to do yoga this week. And what's wrong with that? No one is cattle prodding us, forcing us to do all of these things if we're not into it.
It's important to bring yourself back to the present moment, to pause. We are responsible for our emotional set point. No one can make you feel an emotion that you don't already feel.
For me, conceptually, unfortunately, all of this goes back to scarcity. The fear of things running out or not having enough. And if I don't do enough, I won't be enough. And then it goes back further down to perhaps a lack of self-love and a lack of self-worth. I think we all just need to take a step back and go a little bit easier on ourselves. We could just not punish ourselves for it.
How else do you center yourself? How do you come back in and have a little more perspective? Maybe that would be something that I would really recommend, which is slow everything down for a moment. And when you're in a situation where you're feeling really triggered or it's really reactive, take a breath and pause. Do I need to be here in this moment?
And when we zoom out to the galactic perspective, which is really the heart of what we explore here, This truth gets even more beautiful. Even at a cosmic scale, creation is not constant output. Stars are born in vast clouds of gas and dust, and that process is slow, dark, and invisible from the outside. It looks like nothing's happening, and then a star ignites. The cosmos understands gestation. It builds in darkness. It rests between cycles. It doesn't apologize for its timing. And we are not separate from that intelligence. We are expressions of it. So when you find yourself in a quiet phase, a still phase, a phase where nothing seems to be happening on the surface, it might just be the cosmic gestation you need.
Sometimes you have to trust that there is a higher purpose. So sometimes we're engaged in these situations where we don't always know why, but if we can stay in our alignment and use our gifts and our skill set to alchemize energy, to clear a lineage, to be of service, then I think that's wonderful. But do it in a way that's really pure and authentic for you. And that way you won't walk away drained or exhausted.
And now that we've named the pressure we're all under, the hustle, the always-on expectation, the guilt when we slow down. Now that we've given ourselves permission to step out of the spiritual hustle, let's talk about what we're actually stepping into. Let's turn that around. Because rest isn't just a break from the work. It's actually part of the work. In fact, it's one of the most powerful parts. Today, we are reframing rest as sacred technology, something our bodies and souls already know how to use if we let them. Let's talk about why rest and integration periods aren't optional in the spiritual journey. They are essential. What are your thoughts around this, Anita?
Our nervous system moves through different states. When the body feels pressure, urgency, or threat, it enters survival mode. That's the state where we push, strive, and try to keep everything together. But interestingly, real integration does not happen in that state. It happens when the nervous system feels safe enough to slow down. Polyvagal theory explains this beautifully. When the body experiences safety, the brain becomes capable of processing emotional experiences, integrating memory, making meaning from what we've lived through. In neuroscience, there's something called the default mode network. This is the network that activates when we are resting or in quiet reflection. And this is where the brain does some of its deepest processing, deciphering the meaning of our experiences, providing us with creative insight and the integration of experience. So when we stop, when we rest, when we step out of constant activity, we're not doing nothing. The system is actually reorganizing itself. It's digesting the emotional, psychological, and energetic material we've been moving through. And that's why rest can feel so powerful. It's not passive, it's intelligent. It's the moment where everything you've been learning becomes part of who you are.
I think that pushing non-stop creates resistance and distortion. When we are forcing upgrades without pause, we end up with energetic static, foggy intuition, burnout, or insights that never fully land. Real shifts happened in a regulated state. Rest lowers the stress response so that new ways of being can root deeply instead of just staying surface level. So rest isn't the opposite of spiritual growth. It's the foundation that makes growth real, lasting, and embodied. When we give ourselves these integration periods, we're not falling behind, we're actually moving forward in the most aligned way possible. We're letting the upgrades settle so they can become who we are, not just something we read about or felt for a moment. Now that we've reframed rest as essential sacred technology, let's carry that knowing with us as we move into some simple practical ways where we can start honoring the cycles in our daily lives. We don't need complicated rituals or hours we don't have. We're talking small, doable practices that help us listen to our body and soul, honor our natural rhythms, and create space for everything we've been integrating to really land. These are gentle ways to come back into alignment without adding any more to our plate. let's walk through a few that have been really supportive for us, Anita, and for many of the people we work with.
When people are already overwhelmed, the last thing they need is another complicated spiritual routine. So the practices I tend to suggest are very small, but with consistency, they're very powerful. For example, going outside, being present in nature and getting sun on your face a couple of times a day. It's interesting how often we can go through an entire day and we're so busy, we haven't stopped to go outside and get some sun on our face. So if you can prioritize going outside and sitting on the grass or standing in the sun, closing your eyes and breathing consciously for a minute or two, just being present, allowing the sun to wash over you, breathing deeply and connecting with nature, letting all of your cares and worries go. This is a very healing practice. And if you can't go outside, stand near a window for a few minutes. Feel the light pouring through the window. You don't have to meditate or visualize anything. Just breathe and receive the light. This simple act helps regulate your circadian rhythm and signals to your nervous system that it's safe to move into a balanced state. Studies have shown that time in nature reduces cortisol, the primary stress hormone, and decreases feelings of depression, anxiety, and hostility. I was visiting a corporate client recently, and they have integrated this idea into a section of their offices with big windows and a couple of comfortable chairs and an indoor tree. They recognize that giving people a chance to restore themselves for a few moments throughout the day has proven to be valuable. And people self-regulate. They spend the time they need there and they return to their work. Another extension of this practice, called the micro-stillness reset. This fits beautifully with the theme of sacred stillness and is extremely practical. It only takes about a minute. At some point during your day, especially when things feel rushed or overwhelming, pause whatever you're doing. Close your eyes if you can. Take 3 slow breaths and then ask yourself a very simple question. What does my system need right now? Not what your schedule needs, not what someone else expects from you. Just what does your body or your nervous system need in this moment? With the study of epigenetics, we know that one cell can do the job of every cell. So we know that every cell in your body is capable of listening and processing the questions that you ask. So right now, when you take this moment, your body responds positively. It loves being listened to. It loves being heard. And sometimes the answer is, I need a glass of water. I need to stretch. I need a few quiet breaths. Stepping away from your screen for a few minutes may be all it takes to re-regulate your system. These tiny pauses create space for your body to come back into balance. And often that small moment of stillness completely changes how the rest of your day unfolds. If you're feeling scattered or overwhelmed, step outside and place your hands on a tree, or stand barefoot on the grass if you can. Nature holds a very stable frequency. When we connect with it, the nervous system recalibrates. It reminds the body that we don't have to hold everything alone. And the third practice is something very simple, a discernment check. Before saying yes to something, I want you to pause and ask yourself, am I responding from the overflow or from depletion? Your body usually gives you the answer very quickly, and that one question alone can change the way you move through your day.
So talking about rest, this week I took a break from my normal meditation techniques or routines. I was kind of leaving it open, like I opened that space and something did come and fill it in. So on Monday, depending on when you're listening to this, so Monday, the 9th of March, 2026, Tim Wild, I think it's Wild, Timwhild, His page is Tim Wilde's Practical Ascension. So I ended up on his page just before I was about to do my morning meditation. And as it turns out, he had just published an upgraded ultraviolet flame meditation. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to roll with this. And today is the third day I've done it. And then we went straight into this podcast recording now. And I just thought, I've been going on quite a fair bit about this violet flame and ultraviolet flame in our previous podcast episodes. And today I'm entering our podcast chat, our podcast space, having done a 3-day upgraded ultraviolet flame meditation thanks to Tim Wilde. And that's just another tool I'd like to share with our listeners today. Should you feel it resonate, please go to his page and go back to his video posting on the 9th of March 2026, where he helped to bring in and channel Lord Hilarion and Saint Germain, both Ascended Masters, and he brought them in to work with the upgraded aspect of these flames and light codes, slowly burning away the old programming that rest equals lazy. Breathe in the permission, breathe out the guilt. Simple phrase, this guilt is not mine to carry. I release it into the violet flame.
Thank you, Azriena. Feels like it's connected to something so elevated and galactic and pure and resonant.
And for me, what was interesting is that I came into this meditation during a time when I literally had a break from my normal meditation routines, and I just made space for something else to come in, and it did. No efforting, and it has felt really good. And one of the simplest tools, I think, is doing our best to eliminate guilt while we're resting.
Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply give ourselves permission to relax, to be present with life as it is unfolding, without feeling that we need to earn that moment of peace. We don't need to question our own authority to enjoy our lives, or to decide what nourishment, joy, and rest look like for us. When we stop seeking permission from the outside world, we reconnect with the inner knowing that reminds us we're allowed to live well, we're allowed to have fun, we're allowed to laugh, we're allowed to be exactly as we are.
So none of these are big, overwhelming changes, just small, repeatable ways to say yes to our own rhythms and let the body know that it is safe to rest and integrate. When we practice them consistently, even if imperfectly, we start to feel the difference. More steadiness, clearer intuition, less guilt, and a sense that the upgrades we've been working toward are finally settling in. We don't have to do all of them at once. Just pick one that feels accessible for you today and let that be enough.
Before you step out into the world today, take a quiet moment to ask yourself, where is my set point right now? How do I actually feel? What is my body telling me? And then just listen.
Beloved friends, as we bring today's transmission to a close, we want to take just a moment to really be here with you. Because you showed up today, you listened. And in a world that tells us to keep moving, choosing to slow down and receive, even just for an hour, that is already the practice. That is already the alchemy. So let us leave you with this. In sacred stillness, you are not retreating. You are not falling behind. You are not losing ground. You are expanding quietly, deeply, in the way that only stillness makes possible. Rest is not a pause in your journey. It is part of the journey itself. It is a space where everything you've been courageously working through gets to finally land, to settle into your bones, your cells, your knowing, and become not just something you understand, but something you are. You are not behind. You have never been behind. You're simply aligning breath by breath with the cosmic pulse that has been holding you all along. Trust the quiet. Trust the slow. Trust that what is integrating in the stillness right now is doing something profound, even when you cannot see it. especially when you cannot see it. We are so honored to be walking this path alongside you today. If you'd like to explore our work more deeply, all the links you need are waiting for you in the bio. We would love to continue this conversation with you. Until our next transmission, rest well, integrate deeply, and know that you are so much more than enough, exactly as you are, exactly where you are. With so much love and reverence for your path and for your beautiful, brave soul, this is Galactic Alchemy. We'll see you soon.